The final prototype you're going to make is going to be called a centre stand. Now this card works that as it opens, your centre stand, which in this case is the house because it straddles over the centre part of the backing card, it pops up, and then using bridging tabs it brings up the other elements. So you can see we've got a tree at the back, one in the front, and then the two bushes. So by the end of this video, hopefully you'll understand what a centre stand is and have something that looks like this. So you should have in front of you 2 pieces of A4 card and a couple of pieces of A5. First thing you need to do with both of these pieces of A4 card is to fold them in half nice and accurately. So just ever so carefully, make sure you match the edges up together and then press nice and firmly along the crease. If you do this for both pieces of card, so carefully match up the ends of the card. Remember, a lot of it when it comes to making mechanisms and producing your work is all about accuracy, so we need to make sure we're doing this at every stage. So what you should have now is 2 pieces of card that are folded up to make an A5 size opening card. One of these can go to one side for the minute. The other one can be out in front of us. Now you need this in front of you so that the opening edge is at the bottom. So like this, we've got the fold at the top, the opening side needs to be at the bottom. What we're going to do is we need to measure, same as we have done for the previous 2 mechanisms, 1 centimetre up from either side of the base of this card. Now remember, you're keeping the card folded in half, and you're just going to measure 1 centimetre up on both sides, and you're just going to do a little marker. Once you've got that marker, you can then match your ruler between those 2 points, and we're going to draw a line going all the way across. Now that we've got this, we are going to use this card to create the house. So along that 1 centimetre line that we've just drawn, we need to find 10 centimetres. So measuring from the left hand side of that line, you're going to measure along 10 centimetres and you're going to do a little marker on that line. You're then going to repeat the same at the very top, so along the folded edge of the card. So from the left hand side edge of the card, 10 centimetres along, and again do another little marker. We can then match those 2 points together, and we're going to draw a line going all the way down from the top to the bottom. So this has given us the width of the house. What we now need to do is create the height. So the house is going to be 6 centimetres above. So this section here at the bottom, if you just write in there so we know what we're referring to, glue tab. So you know that that section at the bottom is the glue tab. So we need to measure 6 centimetres up from the top of this glue tab up into the section above. So that's 6 centimetres from the glue tab, not the bottom of the card. And we're going to do a marker. We then do the same on the vertical line that we've drawn. So 6 centimetres up from the top of the glue tab. We do a marker. And then we match those 2 together and we can draw the line going across, and that makes the front of the house. For the roof, we want to repeat what we've just done again up. So the roof is going to be 6 centimetres above the house. So now from the top of the house, we're going to measure 6 centimetres up and do a marker on the left. We then repeat the exact same thing on the right. match those 2 points together and draw our line going across. Now this section here needs to be turned into the roof. So what we need to do is find the halfway point along that line that we have just drawn. So we know that that length is 10 centimetres. So the halfway point is obviously 5. So you're going to find the halfway point and do a marker. And then like we did previously with the V-fold and the internal stand, we're just going to match that point down diagonally to the top of the roof below. And we can then add in the roof part of the house. Obviously, we need to add the front of the house, which includes the door and some windows. So we've already found the halfway point at the top, where the top of the roof hits. We want to find the halfway point at the base of the house. So this is again at the top of the glue tab, not the bottom of the card. So again, match your ruler up. Again, the length is 10, so halfway point is 5. This time, we're going to match that point to obviously the top of the roof, but we're just going to draw a very faint line from the base of the roof to the base of the house. So just going down the middle. Now I've pressed quite hard so you can see. Ideally, I'd like you guys to press very lightly so it's just visible on your page. So to draw our door, we need to measure 1 centimetre either side of that line. So it doesn't matter what measurement you match up with that line, as long as it is on a centimetre of some kind. You're then going to go 1 centimetre to the left. So I've matched the 7 up with the line, so therefore I put a marker at the 6 and 1 at the 8. Doesn't matter what line you measure up, what number you measure up with that line, as long as you are measuring 1 centimetre to the left and 1 centimetre to the right. Repeat that at the top so that we have our 2 dashes at the top of the house and the same at the bottom. And then again, we're going to match these together, and again, you're going to draw a very faint line going down. I'm just pressing harder so that you can see what you should have in front of you. That's created the width of the door, but what we need to do is the height. So the door needs to be 3 centimetres. Now that's 3 centimetres from the top of the glue tab. So we're going to measure 3 centimetres up on that furthest vertical. The same then on the furthest one on the right. And then we can match those together and we can draw in the door. So hopefully when you press hard and draw in the door, your door is really noticeable because you've drawn those faint guidelines on your house. The last thing this now leaves for this part of the house is 2 things, the windows, and we're also going to add a chimney. So for the windows, we need to draw a line that is 1 centimetre below this part of the roof. So this line that goes across horizontally for the base of the roof, we want to come down 1 centimetre and repeat that line. But again, this is going to be a faint guideline, not pressing hard. So if you measure 1 centimetre down on the left from that part of the roof, same on the right, and then we're going to match that together and draw a faint guideline going across. Remember, you really need to practice being able to draw faint guidelines. Mine are just prominent because you need to be able to see them on the video. The last ones we need to add to create the window is on the left hand side of the house, and the right hand side of the house we need to come in 1 centimetre. So if we start on the left, if you go to the top of the roof and just measure 1 centimetre in, if you keep your ruler where it is, you should find that the 10 centimetre is in line with the right hand side of the house. So we can just come back 1 centimetre, which would be on 9, and do a marker. You can then repeat the same at the bottom of the house. So 1 centimetre in from the left, 1 centimetre in from the right, and then match these together, and we've then got the startings to create the window. So when we look at the windows on the mechanism, we can see that there is just 2 windows at the top. Now you can see from here, we need to make sure that the window doesn't touch the door. So that measurement there is actually 1/2 centimetre. So from the edge of the left hand side of the door, you're going to measure 1/2 centimetre to the left of that point. And then if you do the same, if you were to follow the edge of the door, you should have your guideline that matches up to the top of the house. And you can then just measure 1/2 centimetre again in from the left. Match those 2 points together and draw another faint guideline. And now this part here is ready to create the window. So we just need to repeat that on the right. So remember, it's 1/2 centimetre this time into the house from the door. 1/2 centimetre in from the guideline that matches with the door at the top. And then draw your faint guideline going down. Now to create the window, we're going to make the base of the windows the same as where the top of the door is. So if you just place your ruler back and match it up with the top of the door, you can then draw a line going between those 2 guidelines on the right and between the 2 guidelines on the left, and you should now see that you have created 2 windows. So you can just use your ruler and press nice and firmly down, and then we can draw in those windows. Obviously remember, my guidelines are quite prominent because I'm trying to make sure you guys can see it in this video, but on your one in front of you, all of your guidelines should be very, very faint. So there we have the door and the windows. The last thing is the chimney. Now we're going to make the chimney the same width as this window on the right. So all we need to do is match the ruler up with the left hand side of the window and draw a faint line, not a faint line, a prominent line from the diagonal part of the roof to this guideline we've drawn already. So not all the way to the top. So just from the roof to that line. We can then match our ruler up with the right hand side of that window. And again, draw a line going all the way up, and that then creates the house. Now with this mechanism, we're going to do it slightly different to how we did the previous 2. With the V-fold and the internal stand, we created all the elements first and then we stuck it together at the very end. With this one, we're actually going to do the sticking in as we go along. So what you need to do is keeping this piece of card folded in half, so really make sure you're keeping it held together. Just cut along the line that goes all the way down the edge of the house all the way up to the top, so that we cut this spare piece of card off. We need that bit in a little while, so just put that to one side. And now we're left with this part with the house. So what we're going to do is we need 2 identical houses to be able to make the centre stand. So the easiest way to do this is to keep this folded over and cut it together. So you're going to need to hold with your other hand, not the hand you've got the scissors in, it quite clamped together so that you can cut easily. We've obviously got the folded edge at the top, which is going to help us for this. So it's really important we cut certain parts first. So if we start on the right hand side of the house, we can cut along the diagonal part of the roof till we meet the chimney, and then we can go up vertically from the side of the chimney. We're then now going to go from the left hand side of the house all the way up the roof to the very top of the card. So again, keeping it held together carefully, just going to cut all the way up to the top of the card. So the whole thing is still held together, we haven't cut that off, and then all that we're left with now is this part here that we need to cut away. So the last thing you can do is, keeping this card held together, remember we need to keep it together, we're going to cut all the way across the top of the chimney. Now this is where you have to be careful because this has now been cut separately. We need to cut this little triangle out, so if you're going to have to turn the card like I am so that I can cut, you're going to need to make sure this is held together perfectly and doesn't move. And then last part is obviously just to cut that diamond shape, triangular shape away. So what you now have is two separate house outlines. Obviously the one on the back has no drawings on them, but the one on the front does. To turn this into our centre stand, what we're going to do is, with a bit of glue, to the one that we had at the back, so the one with no pencil markings, make sure they are identical. You don't accidentally want to have the house the wrong way round. So make sure the chimney is on the right hand side. You're just going to add some glue to the chimney and to the top part of the house. You don't want to come down too far. Just want to have enough glue. Try not to get it on the desk like I've just done, otherwise it gets very messy. So you just want enough glue on the chimney part and sort of the top part of the house. You can just see about there the amount of glue I've got on there. Now we need to stick these together absolutely perfectly. If I try and stick the top together, I might not get it right. So what we're going to do is, because the base doesn't have any glue, if you rotate the house round so that the part that's got no glue is on your left, you can match those corners up first. Once you've got that matched up, it will take a little bit of time to get it matched up because we need it perfect. You can then lay it down on top of the other one, and what you should find is that the top of the two houses now become attached. So if you were to hold it open, it would only open so far because the top part of the chimney and the roof is attached. The last thing we need to do is to score and fold our glue tab. Now we've got two layers of card on top of each other. You cannot score between two layers of card, so we're going to have to do one and then do the other. So if you keep your pencil lines facing you, use your ruler and use it exactly how we have done previously, and just score the glue tab on the front. Now what you should find is that you should be able to fold this one nice and easily up on itself so that it now folds upwards. Keeping that folded down, you can now place your ruler back over the top of that glue tab so it matches the edge, and you can now score the card underneath. And this time we're going to fold it in the same direction, so coming back on itself. So you're going to fold over the one you've already folded so that we have both glue tabs folding forwards. Now that we have this, we are going to be able to stick this into the backing card. As I've said, we're going to do this in a slightly different way to the previous ones because we're going to glue as we go along. So you need to grab your other piece of A4 card that's folded in half. Same as how we did with the internal stand. If you open up your card, use your ruler and your pencil to just draw a line against that folded edge so that we can really see it. So I always find it's easiest to put your ruler inside when it's folded, push the ruler all the way up to the top, hold your ruler still, open up that card, and then you can draw your line, and it's perfectly on the folded edge. So what this leaves us to do is to now stick the house in. So with your house, if you flatten those glue tabs now so they're nice and flat and in level with the house, if we glue on the pencil side first, so we just want to place some glue on just the glue tab. So you're going to have to be careful. Don't just try and rush and get the glue on there quickly. You want to get glue on just the glue tab, so not on the actual house. Careful not to get it on the desk. So now that we have the glue, we are going to flip this over so the pencil marks face downwards, and we're going to match this end to the folded end, so that pencil mark we have drawn, try and get the house in the middle of the card. Make sure you don't get the edge of this over the line, otherwise the card won't fold. And press down nice and firmly. So what you should find is the backing one is stuck down, the top one isn't. What you can then do is, again, taking your glue and again very carefully just put some glue on that second glue tab. Careful not to go over the folded edge. and then just fold the whole backing card on itself. Press down along that seam because that's where the glue is. And then what should happen is when you open up your card, your house should pop up. Now what you might find is that the house is slightly curved. All you can do, just like I'm doing here, is ever so slightly just fold down the front of the house on the seam, and then the same on the back, so that it now stands up perfectly straight from your card. And what that is our center stand now in and complete. What it now leaves us to do is to create the trees and the bushes. So fold this back on itself and just place it to one side for safekeeping. And we want to grab that piece of card that we cut out that we had next to the house. What we're going to do with this is we're actually going to cut along this folded edge, so we have two pieces of card. The one that's already got the pencil marks on, just turn it over so that we now have two pieces that have no markings on them. With our house, with the trees, we need to have glue tabs on the bottom. Now these trees are going to be stuck 2 centimeters away from the house. So instead of drawing 1 centimeter up from the bottom, like we did with the house, we're going to measure 2 centimeters. So on both pieces of card, you're going to measure 2 centimeters up from the bottom, and then you're going to match those up and draw a line going across. Repeat that on the second piece of card. So remember, this is on the shorter side of the piece of card. You don't want it landscape. You want to make sure it is portrait. Again, match those up so we've got a line going across. Now this gives us our 2 pieces of card for our trees. Now I'm not going to give you measurements for the trees like I did previously. You should be able to draw them roughly to the right size just by looking at eye from what I've drawn. So we want a tree that's going to fit roughly in this space. So we're going to draw a tree trunk. You want your tree trunk fairly thick. And then we can draw on the bushy part of the tree. Now remember, the more bumps you put to your tree, the more you're going to have to cut out. So try and keep them quite big, otherwise you're going to have a job cutting them out. Once you've got your tree drawn, we can then just draw straight down for the glue tab of the tree. And if you just write in here glue tab so we know what that is. Repeat the same on the second piece of card. So draw your tree trunk. Try and make sure you are using as much of this card as possible. If you're just drawing a very small tree and it's only taking up this amount of space, it's not really going to work. So you do want to try and use as much of that space as you can. Again, draw down and mark on the glue tab. You could, if you wanted to add just a couple of wavy lines to the tree trunk to make it look like a tree. Just gives that wood effect, gives that idea of bark on the tree. And then once we've got those drawn, we can cut them out. So you want to cut up the glue tab, round your tree and back down the glue tab. We don't want to cut that glue tab off. If you cut the glue tab off, you've got no way of attaching this to the center stand. So ever so carefully. Hopefully your cutting skills are going to be getting better and quicker, because this is now the 3rd mechanism we're going to be producing. Should also be your 5th prototype. You've done 2 V-folds by now, 2 internal stands So this is now your 5th prototype. So again, because it is a prototype, they don't have to be absolutely perfect. So you don't need to spend a long time cutting out, but same thing, I don't want you to rush that you create a big mess when you're cutting out. So we just cut down the tree and down the glue tab. Do the same for the second one. So just carefully cut around again. Remember, the more bumps you've done on your tree, the harder it is going to be to cut out. But if all you've done is a circle, it's not really going to create the idea of a tree. So you do want a few bumps on there. Obviously, when you guys come to create your final card, depending on which mechanism you choose, you do want to make sure you have a lot of good detail. So you might find whatever you do finally design and create might take you quite a while to cut out, but it should look really effective in the end. So that's what you should have once you've cut both of your trees out. All we need to do for these is to score along the glue tab. So always turn your tree to the side and always place your ruler over the majority of the card. So for this part, it will be the tree trunk facing into the tree. Just carefully score along that line. Same with the second one. And then you should find these fold nice and easily to create our glue tabs. Like so. So these are now ready to glue into the centre stand mechanism by the house. So if we grab the A4 piece of card that we had with our house stuck in. Now one of these is going to be glued to the front of the house. The other one is going to be glued behind. So if you do the front one first, we want to put glue on the glue tab that we can actually see the writing. So you're putting glue over your writing that says glue tab. Again, just be careful. Make sure you just get the glue on the glue tab. This time we're going to turn the tree over so we can't see the pencil markings. Now you want to match up the edge of the base of the tree with the front of the house, and you want the left hand side edge of the tree, the glue tab, to be roughly middle with the window. So you don't want it to completely cover the house, but we do want it so that it's roughly in line with the centre of that window. For the second tree, this one's going to be going behind. So instead of gluing on the part that actually says glue tab, we need to glue on the reverse. So you're going to turn the tree over this time so that you can't see any pencil markings. And we're going to put the glue on the back of that glue tab. Again, if you're going to glue like me over the backing piece of card, make sure you can accurately put the glue on just the glue tab, otherwise you can end up with glue all on this piece of card, and then when you fold it over, it's going to stick to itself. So we're now going to do the same thing, but obviously on the back of the house we don't have any markings to go by because we can't see the window. So all you're going to do is find roughly the halfway around your tree and your tree trunk. You want that to match up with the side of the house. So you're just going to match that up with the side of the house and glue that down. So that you should then find that that one is glued halfway. So then now this time, if we were to flip these up, both the tree in the front and back, half of it is covered by the house. So all that we've left to do now is we need to add some little bridging tabs that attach the tree to the house so that when the card opens, they are pulled up. So again, if we place this just to one side for safety, you want to get your other piece of A5 card And we need to measure on for our bridging tabs. Now we actually are going to need 4 bridging tabs because we've got 2 trees and then we're also going to attach 2 bushes. The bridging tabs for each of these are going to be the same, so we can draw all 4 at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're actually now going to turn this card around so it's in front of us portrait. So it's not landscape where the longer side's at the bottom, we're now having it portrait where it's the shorter side. Okay, so on the left hand side of the card we want to make a marker at 1 centimetre up, but we want 4 of them. So if you place your ruler so that 4 centimetres at the bottom of the card, we then want to do a marker at the 3, at the 2, at the 1 and at the 0. So the 4 at the base of the card, then put a marker at the 3, at the 2, at the 1 and at the 0. We then do the same on the right hand side of the card. So 4 at the bottom, put a marker at the 3, at the 2, at the 1 and at the 0. We can then match each of these together and draw our line going across. What you should find is you have 4 sections that are 1 centimetre in height going all the way along the length of the card. The glue tab part to these bridging tabs only need to be 1 centimetre. So from the base of the card now, we're going to measure inwards from the edge 1 centimetre and we're going to do a little marker. We're then going to place our ruler up to the top line that we've got and we're going to do the same. So from the left hand side edge of that line, we're going to measure 1 centimetre in. And again, we can now match these together and draw a line going all the way down. Now each of these squares become glue tabs, so we can just do glue tab 1, glue tab 1, glue tab 1 and glue tab 1. So we now know that they are glue tab 1. The next part, which is glue tab 2, is the bridge part. This is the part that you can see when you look down on the mechanism. So this part here is glue tab 2. It becomes the bridge. So for these, we want to make them 2 centimetres in width. So you're going to measure from that line that we've now drawn, which is the right hand side of glue tab 1's, we're going to measure 2 centimetres to the right of them. Again, we're going to do 1 at the bottom and 1 on the top line, and then match those together and draw a line down. Now, we don't need to mark on that they are glue tab 2s because we don't actually need to put any glue on them. They are the bridging tab, so we can keep that clear. The last thing to add is then finally the final glue tab, which is just a repeat of what we did for glue tab 1. So we're going to measure 1 centimetre now to the right hand side of that line. And then match those together. And then we can label these glue tabs 3. So glue tab 2 are the ones in the middle, but we're not going to label that on. So what we've now got is, knocking my camera, 4 glue tabs ready to go. We can cut these out in one whole piece. If you cut all the way down the ends of glue tab 3 and then all the way along the back part so that we have them all connected together. The reason we're going to keep these connected together is we want to score these lines that go down either side of glue tab 1 and glue tab 3. If we cut each of these out so they're just a centimetre strip, it's going to be quite difficult to do. So if you place your ruler, so the ruler is actually covering glue tab 1 and the middle part, so we've only got glue tab 3 visible, we can score along that line. We can then rotate it round, so now glue tab 3 is on the left, and we can place our ruler again over all of that. So we've just got glue tab 1 visible, so we can score those. We can then fold those down. So we've now got those bridging tabs folded and ready. So once we've done those, we can then just cut these up. So we now have 4 bridging tabs, but they're already folded, ready for us. This is going to make it a lot easier doing it this way rather than trying to score and fold something that size. So once you've got all of those, if you put 2 of them to one side, because we only need 2 at the moment to glue the trees in, grab your card back, and then on one of these, what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on both glue tab 1 carefully, and then the same on glue tab 3. Be really careful not to get any glue on that middle part that we've left blank. Okay, so we're going to glue in the tree that's in front of the house first. Now this bridging tab needs to be able to touch both the tree and the house. So you can see roughly where the tree goes over the house. So this part of my tree here definitely touches the house. So this is where I'm going to be looking at sticking that glue tab. So I'm going to fold glue tab 1 down so that the glue part is underneath. And then I'm going to just glue that to the furthest part I can on my tree trunk, so it's on the bushy part, so that is stuck to the back of the tree. Keeping the flat part that's got no markings on it down and glue tab 3 visible that's got the glue on, I'm just going to hold that in place, and I'm just going to fold the whole lot over, and I'm just going to make sure I press down where that glue tab is. And what you should find is now when you pop open that card, that tree is stuck to the house and pops up at the same time. So we can repeat that for the house and the tree that's behind it. So again, we put glue on glue tab 1, glue on glue tab 3. We're going to glue glue tab 1 down. And again, you want to roughly look as to where the tree and the house cross. So I can see on this one, it's more down here on the bottom of my tree, not so much at the top. So I'm going to put glue tab 1 down on this part here. And again, I'm going to keep the long part visible, glue tab 3. I'm going to fold that down on itself. Again, press nice and firmly where the glue tab is. And now when I pop that up, the second tree is now stuck together and pops up when the card opens. Now the last thing we want to do now to finish it off is to add in our bushes. So if we put this to one side for the last time, if we grab the remainder of the card that we drew the bridging tabs on, and if we actually flip it round, so the lines that we already drew are at the top, we're going to look at the other side of the piece of card. The glue tabs for these bushes need to be 2 centimetres in height. So you're going to measure 2 centimetres on either side of the card. Do our normal markers. We're going to match those together and draw a line going across. Again, I'm not going to give you measurements for the bushes, but we want to draw them similar size to the ones we've drawn before. So you just want a good, decent size bush drawn on your card. And again, draw straight down for the glue tab for these. And again, we can label on the fact that these are the glue tabs. They almost look like little chef hats, actually. We can then cut these out, and remember, don't cut the glue tabs off. We need the glue tabs there, otherwise it won't work. So just carefully take your time. Again, hopefully you've not done too many bumps to the bush so that it's not going to be a nightmare to cut out. Shouldn't take you too long. So just cut both of those out nice and accurately. Once you've cut those out, we can score the lines again like we've done before. So ruler, scissors to score our lines. We can then fold these to create the glue tab. And then that finally just leaves these to be glued in and attached to the rest of the mechanism. So if we grab our final piece of card for the last time, we're going to glue one of these bushes in front of the house on the left hand side here. So if we put glue again on the part that says glue tab, again, make sure that the glue then shows down, so it's going to stick to the backing piece. And again, we want the right hand side of the glue tab to be roughly in line with the middle of the window on the left of the house. So just match that up. Make sure the glue tab does touch the base of the house. We don't want a gap between the glue tab and the house. So that then sticks in. Repeat the same. So put glue on the glue tab of the other one. And again, this time we're going to go halfway along the front of the tree. So we're going to go to the right hand side of the tree and half of it. So the left hand side of the bush is in line with the middle of the tree, and the right hand side goes off to the edge so we can see that it doesn't quite match up. And then all we then finally need to do is add our bridging tabs, which we put to one side. We've got those already pre-cut and ready to go. So glue on glue tab 1 and on glue tab 3. Remember to look carefully at where the bush and the house are going to meet. So I can see, looking at this part of the bush is going to be able to be in line with the back of the house. So this is where I'm going to be sticking my glue tab. So glue tab 1 folds downwards with the glue on it. I'm going to glue that to the back of there. I can then hold that down and hold the whole thing over, and again push where the glue tab is. It's pointless rubbing the whole thing. You want to really get onto the bit that needs to be stuck together. And then now when that pops up, that bush is being brought upwards. And then again, last one, glue on glue tab 1 and on glue tab 3. Fold your glue tab 1 down. Again, carefully look at where this is going to meet. Stick it down. Fold the whole thing down. Press nice and firmly. And there we should have the centre stand nicely stuck down. And then as your card pops up, you've got your trees and you've got the bushes and everything popping upwards. The really nice thing about this one is you can layer up in both directions. So not only can you bring them forwards, you can also bring them backwards. So you can get a really good 3D scene effect. And that's the centre stand.